It is easy to get carried away by the importance of markets. It's useful to realize that markets don't exist in a vacuum. For any exchange of goods or services to work, there has to be a contract, and contracts have to be legally enforceable. If you buy a television and it does not work, then you have the right to return it and demand a replacement or get your money back. To enforce that right, you need courts where you can complain and get a judgment in your favor, and a police force to enforce the judgment. Without law and order and a system of enforcing contracts, markets cannot work. The ease of doing business is just as important. The ease of getting a license to trade, getting water and electricity connections, good transportation and other infrastructure are vital for a market economy to thrive. These are goods typically provided by the government. So good governance is vital. So for markets to work, you need good institutions and good governance. The other issue to ponder upon is that if markets are so useful, why don't we use them more often? Certainly within your families, resources are not allocated according to the logic of markets. You are fed and clothed according to your needs and what the family can afford. Similarly, in your workplace, you usually have jobs which last for years, and you're not hired daily. Firms usually rely a lot on command and control systems rather than on incentives and the logic of markets. This is not to suggest that firms are immune to using incentives. Most firms rely on a combination of incentives and a military-like structure to achieve their targets. Why do firms exist? Most of you wear t-shirts. How did you get that t-shirt? You will find that a silly question. Of course, you went to a shop and bought it. But you could have chosen a much more difficult route for getting your t-shirt. You could have gone to a designer to get the design and then bought all the thread and other materials required. Then you could have gone to a fabric maker to get your cloth stitched and then finally employed a tailor to get your t-shirt made. But you didn't. Why? Because it is far easier to just go to a clothes shop and buy one. Every time you participate in a market to buy or sell, it requires time and effort. This could include costs of gathering and processing information and transportation costs, among others. In total, these are called transaction costs. Most buyers and sellers would want to reduce transaction costs. You don't want to engage in 4 transactions to buy a t-shirt. It is cheaper for a clothes manufacturer to make t-shirts in-house and sell it to a retailer who in turn sells it to you. In fact, the existence of transaction costs explain the existence of firms. One of the reasons why firms exist is that they economize on transaction costs. We have already seen that good governance is very important for markets to function properly. We have also noted that firms do not always follow the logic of markets and incentives. Also, as we will see much later, that markets do not work that well in some situations. We may be tempted, therefore, to now diminish the importance of markets. We may think that it might be better to bring most economic activities within the ambit of the government. In fact, we still have lots of activities where the government is the producer. The government runs the railways, it is the largest producer of coal, and it runs airlines and banks. Why not let it run the whole economy? Unfortunately, the record of the government in running enterprises is not that good. It seems that the markets are still better, at least in some respects. What is probably more important is the right mix of regulation and reliance on free markets. Finally, access to markets is very important. A large number of social failures can be pinned on excessive regulation that hampers access to markets.